for my costume rendering, I chose Macbeth. And then what I did was I took it into space and in the future. So in order to get the inspiration, I looked up the Elizabethan era and tried to combine it with the what astronauts would wear, and I got inspiration off of movies that use like future tech, like Man of Steel. So one of the main pieces that were from the Elizabethan era would be this ruff around the neck, which seemed to be super popular because it was in many pictures. And then they like to wear the puffy shoulders with this sort of vest-looking material with these little hoops. And then jewelry was a big thing back then, so I decided to toss that in. Now with the skirt, I decided not to do a full length because of movement. And then I based it off of space, which is what has the star pattern. And then the color is actually purple, although it looks a blue color. With the high heels, it wasn't very popular during the Elizabethan time, but I thought going through all modern clothing that it wouldn't get rid of something so popular that's today. So that's why I decided to keep the high heels in. Now, a few things that I shared between all the costumes for today was this, as you can see, the battery pack. It's just kind of smaller. You can't really see it because it's mostly on the back of the person. And it actually supplies energy to the entire suit for weapons and just normal movement, whereas Lady Macbeth does not actually have weapons or a shield because she is actually not going to be in battle at all. And then another thing that's shared between all the costumes is this helmet and little voice connector that allows them to talk in hostile environments and actually supplies them with oxygen when they're in space. So I thought that was pretty cool to include in. And then I actually did Macbeth, and so I was thinking about what a king would wear, so I added this cool little space crown that I thought kind of gave him more of an emperor type look instead of just the normal Elizabethan crown. And then I kind of got inspired from the knights at the time, so I used these metal paddings, as you can see. And then I actually decided that black would be a cool color to make it seem as though it's a more dense metal. And then this is actually a very light gray to show it's a little bit weaker than the rest, but really strong. And then one thing I thought was really cool was that a lot of knights and soldiers use chainmail. So what I did was I incorporated it into the costume, but actually made it a laser chainmail, so it'd be harder to cut through. And then their sword is actually more of a saw because it allows them to cut through easier. Because I wanted to stick with the idea that there were no guns to kind of give it that same warrior aspect. So they need the strength of the suit and the sword to be able to cut through. And then this little thing on his arm is actually a generator for a shield that'll pop up, which I thought was really cool. And then finally, the cape was mandatory because most kings wore capes at that time period, and it was a very big fashion statement. And then finally, I did Macduff. So I was looking, and although he isn't a knight in the play, I decided the knight helmet looked cool, so this is what it would look like from the side. I threw on the stars because of the space theme again. And then he doesn't wear as much black because he wouldn't be able to afford it like a king would. He does have the black around the throat because it's a little more vulnerable area. And then he has the thicker chest plates in order to survive the attacks. He also has his chainmail, but it's not as prevalent in this as it was in Macbeth's costume. And then because he was higher ranking, he was a Thane, I decided to give him a cape as well to show. And then the over-the-shoulder cape was I thought was a really cool look, so I gave it to him to make him seem more of a higher official. And then he doesn't actually have the sword present or the shield because it is hidden under the cape, but he does have one.